Lovely. Okay. So welcome to your midweek wind down practice. We are a few weeks to go before um, the festive day, so hopefully you're all feeling okay, but also not too overwhelmed because it can be a real time of busyness and plans. So let's just take this next hour and this opportunity to take a bit of a step away from all of that. So we're going to begin in sitting. I have a couple of blocks just ready, and feel free to sit up on a bolster if that works better for your hips, or just come and sit in any way that feels comfortable. If your hips are feeling okay this evening and it's comfortable, you could come and sit in a little full lotus pose. Perhaps you could just tuck one foot in towards the other knee. If that doesn't work for you, little tip, you could just try a little block underneath the knees, because that sometimes helps a little bit, just to sort of tuck the knee in. So sit in any way that feels comfortable. Blocks could go underneath the knees, and we'll let the shoulders just soften down and away, turning the palms just to rest facing up to the sky, inviting in just a sense of heaviness through the hands, maybe a sense of heaviness through the shoulders, just really letting the shoulders move down and away. Think about the shoulder blades just tucking in towards each other here. And we're going to start just by dropping the chin to the chest. So just let the back of the head and neck relax, really just allow the shoulders to soften. Maybe taking a little glance down towards the earth, let the head and neck just hang heavy here. And then slowly bring the head and neck back to center. And then once you come back to center, just imagine that your head is really stacked on your shoulders. So try not to sort of move from right to left. Imagine a nice long line here, all the way from the crown of the head down to that belly button. And just come and close the eyes or soften the gaze. We're going to come into our Ujjayi breath, which is our nostril breathing. So for this, you're going to close the mouth and we're going to breathe just in and out through the nose. And we're going to do that 10 times. If for any reason this doesn't work for you with this breath, feel free just to breathe in and out, taking 10 breaths just with what's comfortable. When you're ready, let's close the mouth and just begin by inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 5 more, just in your own time. At the end of that 10th Ujjayi breath, come and open the mouth and just take a few relaxed breaths. So without any force at all, just breathe nice and easy here. Just noticing the wave of air in through the nose, this time out through the mouth. And I'd like you to think about that breath outwards, just being nice and long. Perhaps imagine just any tension or stress just leaving the body through that breath. And you may want to just direct this breath to any areas that do feel a little stiff or sore this evening. So perhaps just imagining that breath a little bit like warmth and energy, just go into any areas that need it. And then keeping the eyes closed, we're going to come and draw the palms together, just giving the hands a little bit of a rub here. And we're going to let the hands just rest around the eyes, keeping the eyes closed. Allow the hands just to rest around the face, let the forehead just soften. Take a moment just to pause here. You're going to open the eyes and draw the palms together. We're going to start with the palms just in the center of the chest. Sorry, just let Wendy in. And from here, you're going to reach the arms into the air and we're going to come straight into a twist. So take your left hand to the outside of the right knee. Your right hand can drop behind you. If you've got a bolster, you can come and just touch onto the bolster and just take a look over towards that right shoulder. Bringing your hands back to center, high wind. Just reach the arms into the air, take a breath in. And then on your exhale, right hand to outside of left knee. And again, your left hand could drop behind you, just taking a little twist and letting your left hand rest onto the bolster. Just a couple more like this. We'll reach those arms into the air. Perhaps on the next few you do, you can make them a bit wider with the arms. So really outstretch the arms side to side. Let left hand rest on the right knee. Look towards the right hand side of the body. Really use your hand just to pivot yourself round. We're going to come back to center and do the right side now. So breathe in. On your exhale, breathe out. Right hand to outside of left knee, left thigh. Drop that left hand behind you, either to floor or to the bolster. And then slowly coming back to center. Let's come and sit all the way down towards the earth. So if you've got any props and your bolster, just release it completely. And if you've got your legs crossed, then just give the legs a little bit of a stretch out, recross the legs again, or just sit in a slightly different position here. We're going to work into a little bit of a cat-cow. So hands are going to go into the knees or the thighs, drop the chin to the chest. And as you round through the back, push the fingertips just into the knees. This gives us a little bit more of a stretch through the upper back. Start to glide the heart, the head and the neck forwards, just opening up through the chest. Find some space between chin and chest. Take an arch of the back here. And we'll take a few waves here, just allowing your breath to move nice and easily as we inhale, come forwards. Gentle breath and wave of air in. And as we exhale, just soften around the back, really just allow the belly to relax here. So we breathe in and we lengthen, and then we breathe out. Fingertips, finger pads can go right onto those knees. And then as we come back into our little C shape, so just arching around and through the back, we're going to pause at the end of the next C shape. So keeping the fingertips on the knees, on the thighs, just take a moment to pause here, really round through the spine, drop the chin to the chest. And then release the hands, come and interlace the fingers. Do the same stretch here, but push the hands as much as you can away from you. You might find you can drop the chin a little lower here. And then we're going to reach those arms into the air. And we're going to shrug the shoulders. So fingertips are still interlaced. Shrug the shoulders up to the ears and then release down. And just do this a couple of times. So we shrug and we release. We tense and we release. Just shaking away any tension through the shoulders. Last one here, tense and release. And then just give the hands a little bit of a shake. Just shake off any tension perhaps from today or the last few days. Just shake it out here. We're going to interlace the fingers here and just give the wrists a little bit of a circle. So just circling around before we come into tabletop, just working to the wrist nice and gently. And option to use the blocks this evening, perhaps in our tabletop position. So guide any bolsters out the way. If you want to use the blocks, then we're going to pop them underneath the hands, underneath the wrists. Feel free to go with or without, entirely up to you. Hands are going to press just underneath the floor or underneath the bolsters, and we'll take the knees right underneath the hips here. And we're going to take a few of those cat-cows in this position. So you're going to start to bring the hips down, start to C-shape through the spine, take a little wave as we come here, and then send the hips backwards. We're going to arch them around the back so we can really press the hands in towards the blocks, in towards the earth. And just move between the two movements, taking a nice gentle wave here. Perhaps you can start to make the movements a little bigger, let the head and neck just really move with you, get all of that back moving, really bend into the elbows. And again, just a little option here, as we come up into our cat-cow, we could maybe come onto the fingertips. That gives us a little bit more of a stretch through the shoulders. So you might find that as you come into cat-cow and the fingertips are just down, you can stretch a little more through the back as you do this. So fingertips, hands, or without the blocks. Yeah, just work with whatever feels good, no right or wrong. Here, we're going to try a little downward dog with the blocks. So hands are down, either blocks or without blocks. Curl the toes under. You're going to lift the knees away from the floor and just take a downward facing dog. The legs may feel a little tight here, don't worry. Just give the knees a bend from side to side. The hands can stay on the blocks, just spreading the fingertips wide if you're using them. And we can just allow the head to relax between the elbows, taking a gentle stretch here. Hopefully they're not too slippy. And then soften those knees down towards the earth, just let the head and neck adjust to being upright. And we'll walk the hands just back to the knees or the thighs. Sit in any way that feels comfortable, back of the mat. Just give yourself a little moment here. You could take a few little wrist circles, again, just to release through the wrists, or come off the knees, whatever feels good. And then we're going to prep our blocks because we're going to come into a little bit of a sort of rise up on the knees. So do feel free to pad up on the knees. You're going to take the blocks either side. You might want to come sort of long ways on the mat here, but the blocks are going to go long ways. So we're going to work into a few little rolls down through the spine. So feel free to pad underneath the knees. Option if it feels too much on the knees, you can always do this sitting, either down on the knees or just normal seated position. But I'm just going to come all the way up on the knees. You're going to take your right hand onto the block and we're going to sweep the left arm around. Nice. And just allow some gentle movement through the shoulder. We allow the side of the body to really open up here. And then we're going to take left arm to left ear and just hold here. Now you could look down towards the right hand side, you could look up towards your left palm, but see if you can take a little bit more of a side stretch here, maybe going a little deeper, reaching that left arm overhead and just stretching out through the side of the body. You're going to release the left arm, sweep it all the way down, cross the left hand onto the block and take a few gentle sweeps here. So perhaps just imagine that you're gathering up a little bit of energy, a little bit of warmth in this cold spell and just allowing it to flood the body here. We can really circle through that arm, open up through the shoulder. Side body stretch here. We take right arm to right ear. Feel free to adjust the block. Closer it is, slightly less stretch. Further away, you're going to find more of a side body stretch. So check in with where the block is. Right arm to right ear. And again, we could look down to the block. We could look up to right palm. And just take a little moment to pause here. Nice. Releasing completely. We're going to pop one block out of the way because we're going to add the leg in with that. So let's pop the left block out of the way, keeping the right block where it is. You can either keep the block long ways or maybe short ways. It's a slightly sort of harder short ways position. So either option's great. We're going to start back on the knees. Right hand is going to press down. You're going to sweep left arm around again. So a couple of sweeps here. Perhaps this time you could peel that back all the way down just to allow some movement through the whole of the back rather than just that shoulder. So peel and just unravel, take that layer of tension or stress away, just let it go. Let's add leg in now. So left arm to left ear, sweep it over and take left leg out to the side of the body. Stretch through that left hip, left hand side of the left leg, and just take a moment to pause here. Maybe a little squeeze of the hip muscles, maybe a little lift of the left leg if you're feeling adventurous, no pressure. Nice. And then soften arms, soften leg. Come back into sitting just for a moment. This time we're going to cross at the wrists and you're just going to peel kind of like a jumper away. So again, just take a nice big motion with the arms, cross at the wrists and peel, unravel a layer. If you want to come up onto the knees, we could take it into a bit of a bigger stretch. Nice. It always reminds me of like the first sort of stretch of the morning. Nice. And just kind of unravel from here. Let's take block onto left hand side. We're going to do the same with arm and leg. So start by lifting hips up, left hand onto the block. We take right arm to right ear and just feed it around again. Maybe this time inviting a little bit more movement. So soften all the way down, scoop on up all the way up. Let the back really soften here and then peel the back up to center. Starting to add that arm and leg variation. We're going to take right leg out to the side, right arm above the head. This is gate pose. Just taking a moment to stretch here. And again, if we're feeling adventurous, we could lift leg into air, little squeeze of the hip muscles, taking a little pause here. Soften the right knee, soften that right arm, come all the way back down again. And either back to sitting on the knees or coming off the knees. Just take a little circle with those wrists. Lovely. Hope for a really a bit more warmed up now. So we're going to come back into tabletop again. Blocks or no blocks, entirely your choice. Blocks on the flattest position if we are using them. Tabletop position. Hands just underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And we're going to hip circle here. So you're going to lift your right hip and knee away from the earth. Now, rather than keeping the hips really fixed here, I'd like you to think about inviting in a bit of movement with the back. So send the hips backwards. And then really wave through the spine as you come forward. So we can almost do a little cat-cow whilst we're circling into the hip. Really nice way to get the back moving as well. And hands can press down either into blocks or in towards the earth. You could pad underneath that left knee as well, don't forget. And maybe see how it feels to go the opposite direction as well. And then we're going to come into a little variation of this. So take your right leg behind you, stretch the right leg to the end of the mat. Your right hand is going to stay down. We're going to lift left arm to left here, taking a little flying tabletop on the block. Lovely. Hover here. Find your balance. Lovely. Soften left hand, soften right knee, and just take a little wave with the hip side to side. You could take a full circle perhaps into these hips. Remember, if your wrists need a little break, you can always come into a little fist position. And then we're going to do those hip circles left side. So lift the left hip and knee, take a few hip circles, but again, inviting some movement through the back. So don't be afraid to get the whole back moving. You don't need to keep those hips fixed. Nice. Maybe a little round through the elbows as well. Circle both directions, see how it feels to get the whole back just waving around whilst we move the hip. We're going to send left leg behind us, take it to the end of the mat, lift it off the earth. We take right arm to right ear, so flying tabletop position. A little hover here, hug the belly in, just staying strong through the center. And we soften hand down, we soften knee down, curl the toes under, downward facing dog, blocks or no blocks, lift the hips nice and high. And let's start to take a walk out here. Perhaps this time you could give the hips a little shimmy, really lengthen through the back of the legs, nice. Okay, so from here, let's soften the knees back down to the earth. We're going to guide our right foot forwards, keeping the blocks just on the hand. So you're going to step right foot between the blocks. Blocks could be flat, or we could start to lift them upwards now, maybe facing almost like that kind of front of a book position. Right knee just in line with the right ankle. And left leg is behind us here. So start to think about left hip really pressing forwards, lifting up through the head and the neck area, finding some space between the chin and the chest. And taking a little moment to pause here. So we're going to work into the arm as well here. If it feels too much, feel free to stay here. I'm going to give you a couple of options. We could start to peel the right arm into the air and just take a few little sweeping motions around, peeling it up and then taking it behind you. If that feels a little much onto the shoulder, we could just take our right hand behind our back. This brings us into a bit more of a twist while we're here. Or we could do a little combination of both, maybe just seeing how it feels. And then bringing that right hand just back onto the block, you're going to guide your left leg nice and long. So keep the hands blocked, long ways or short ways. Dig the right heel down and allow the right knee to lengthen. Now your chin, your nose are going to come down towards that right knee and you're going to round through the back here. So find a stretch through the back of the leg, just stretching into that hamstring. And just take a little moment to breathe here. Lovely. Okay, walking that right foot back to center, we can bring those blocks back. Nice. We're going to curl left toes under, coming into a full lunge. Now just be mindful the blocks can feel a little wobbly here. If you're happy to be here, we could just lift left knee. If your blocks don't feel like they're supporting you, you could just bring them down, letting the fingertips rest down, even the hands. But see if you can lift that left leg up to the sky, because from here we're going to do the arm option. So right arm could peel into the air and we could wave it behind us. Right arm could come behind the back. We could take it into a twist. If any of this feels too much, we could just stay hands down. We could drop knee down, but just see how it feels to do it with that leg lifted. Yeah, we've got a full twist going on here. Really nice just to get the middle of the back going. And it's a little hard on the legs, so well done. Keep the legs going. Nice and strong through the legs. Let's soften that left knee down. Bring that right knee back underneath the right hip. And we're going to come to a little mini child's pose. Now you could let the hands just rest onto the blocks if you want to stretch through the shoulders. You could just walk the hands off the blocks if you want to just come and rest the forehead onto the forearms. Feel free to take any variation that feels good. Oh, my Christmas jumper's coming off. And just take a little moment to breathe here. And you might want to just take a little fist with the hands and then kind of flick the hands out. So just give the wrist a little bit of a breather here, make a little fist with the hands and then maybe just flick off through the hands and fingertips. Yeah, we'll just take a couple more breaths. Perhaps just letting go of the day or the week so far. Anything that's been niggling you at all. Perhaps just starting to let it leave the body here. Let's come and guide ourselves back into tabletop position. Again, we're going to just prep those blocks. So we've got them long ways or flat ways, short position. Starting in tabletop, curl the toes under. One more downward facing dog. You're going to lift the hips up and just take a little walk out here. So bend in one knee, bend in the other. Release through the back of the legs. Really nice. We're going to give the hips a little wave here. So really press the heels down and just give the hips a little shimmy from side to side. Now you may find as you're here, you're just starting to stretch through the back of one leg at a time. You can really think about sinking the right heel and then left heel down. Yeah, nice. So see if you can allow the heels to sink a little further as you're swaying from side to side. Soften the knees down to the earth. When you're ready, let's guide left foot forwards between the blocks. Left knee in line with the left ankle. Blocks could be long ways or short ways, whatever feels good. We're going to lift up through the head and the neck. Our right knee is pressing down, so feel free to pad underneath that back leg. And we're going to lift up through the head and the neck. So find some length here through the upper body. Don't be afraid to let those hips sink down so that the right hip flexor stretches. That's the front of the right hip. Nice stretch into the hip joint. Let the shoulders just relax here. Let the head and neck just focus forwards to the top of your mat. And then we're going to come into those little arm variations. So keep your right hand down. You're going to sweep left arm into air, peel it around, and just take it around in that little wave in motion. If it's too much on shoulder, we could take it just behind the back, bending the elbow, maybe taking a little look behind us, or we could do a little combination of both. Nice. And then keeping the hands on the blocks, let's come and lengthen through the left leg. You might want to draw the blocks a little closer to the body, pressing the weight through that left heel. Allow the body to round here. So nose towards knee, round through the spine. Hands could be on blocks, floor, whatever feels good. Just find some length on the back of the left leg. Pausing here. And then pressing the weight through that left leg, we're going to come into that full lunge position. So curl right toes under. Again, mindful of blocks here can feel a little wobbly. So we could go long, we could go short, or we could go all the way to the floor, fingertips down. Press the right knee up towards the sky. Lengthen through the back of the right leg. Arm variations here, same thing. We could peel left arm into air, maybe taking it round. Nice, just taking a little peel. We could take left hand maybe behind the back, just taking it into a full twist with our low lunge. And then softening hands down. Let's come and unravel all the way back. So left knee underneath the left hip, tabletop position. Just gently coming off the block with the hands if you've got them. Just come back into a normal tabletop. Curl the toes under. Just take a few little hip waves here to stretch through the base of the feet into the toes. Press the hips to the heels, curl the toes under if it's okay on the toes. Nice. Okay, so we're going to come into a little forward fold with the blocks. You're going to prep them so they're at the top of the mat. Long ways or short ways, entirely up to you. We're going to come into a little downward facing dog, and then we're going to walk the feet forwards, just taking a little forward fold where we're hanging forwards, placing the hands on the block. So curl the toes under, lift the hips high, lengthen through the back of the legs. This time go a little wider with the feet, let the heels really hang down, take a walk out, bend one knee, bend the other, and then begin to walk the feet to the hands. Your block should be there so that your hands can come and rest onto the blocks here. So let the hands rest, let the hips be nice and high, and just start to bend one knee at a time. So you're stretching through the back of the legs here. The heels can really press down, and we can just let our hands rest onto the blocks. Lovely. So when you're ready from here, we're going to come into a little chair pose. So I'd like you to walk the feet close together, bring the inside of the big toes, inside of the heels touching. You're going to send the hips backwards. We're going to bend into the knees, take the hands off the blocks and just reach the arms forward. So chair pose here, really sink nice and low. Let the thighs do the work. Lift up through the back, look forwards, find your focus, keep breathing. Chair pose, lovely. Press the hands onto the block, straighten through the legs, take that full forward fold. And again, you might want to just sway it out side to side. Lovely. We're going to press the hands all the way to the earth, all the way to the floor, and guide yourself back into downward facing dog. So hands press down, step the feet back, downward facing dog, lift the hips high. Take another little walk out here. That was my ankle clicking. And then once we're here, you're going to soften those knees all the way down. Come and unravel through the feet, unravel through the toes. And we're going to set ourselves up in butterfly pose here with the blocks. So, a couple of options. We're going to draw the soles of the feet together. Actually, I'm going to show you this with bolster as well. So, a couple of options. We could come into butterfly with just the blocks underneath the knees here. And we could stay in an upright position. What may be nice if you have a bolster is then to add this in with the bolster behind you. So you could tuck the bolster right in towards the lower back and just allow the body to fold backwards, bolster behind you, blocks just underneath the knees. You might find that you need a little bit of extra support for your head as well. And this may be a nice option to do if you're feeling a little tight through the front of the chest, through the front of the body. It opens the hips and it opens the shoulders as well. So option to be here. Option to perhaps stay upright. You could always do this pose starting to come forwards with blocks just underneath the knees or without. Nice. And then another option with the bolster, if you're sat upright, is actually to have the bolster in front to let your forehead rest. So any option, just get yourself set up and kind of settled. We're going to come into a few more stiller yin poses now. So do take whatever time you need to get comfortable. Find the support from those blocks, find the support from your props, and just start to let that head and neck adjust a little bit. Doing a little bit of up and down there. So just let your blood pressure kind of adjust to being in sitting or lying, whichever position you're in here. Now we're going to start to come back to our breath. So you may have noticed as we've been doing a little bit more of a flow practice, maybe your heart rate just increasing slightly. Just begin to check in with your breath. Maybe just noticing that rise and fall of your chest here, rise and fall of your belly. And just begin to soften through the jaw, relaxing through the front of the chest, front of the shoulders. And a little bit like this time of year, although things may feel really busy, that's that yang element. It's even more important that we start to find some time just to rest, to really slow down, to pause. Perhaps not getting caught up in all of the busyness, but still creating some time. Perhaps that's just to be alone. We're going to take 3 more breaths here in the shapes that you've created. If it's comfortable, you could just come back to those nostril breaths where you're closing the mouth and just breathing in and out through the nose. It's a nice way just to clear the air, clear the nose passages. In yoga, the Ujjayi breath is sometimes thought to help clear the head, clear the mind. So when you're ready, we're going to start to think about moving. If you've taken the bolster behind your back, we're going to keep the back where it is and we're going to move the legs first. So when you're ready, just start to guide those knees together. The soles of the feet can rest onto the floor with the knees pointing up to the sky. You may want to take a moment to let the inside of the knees drop in and walk the soles of the feet out. And then just taking a few more moments here, we'll start to peel the upper body away from our prop. So you could press those hands just into the floor and just slowly guide yourself up. You could come onto your side. Nice. We'll start just to slowly unravel ourselves here. Okay, so we're going to come into a little bit of a side body stretch here. We're going to keep the bolster where it is. You're going to stack through the ankles, the knees, the hips. We're going to prep the bolster with a couple of blocks. So I will just show you. You're going to have one block long ways and one block short ways. If you haven't got blocks, you could just use a couple of cushions, that works fine. It's just that this is going to give us a little bit more elevation. So you're then going to bring the bolster so that it's on a bit of an incline here. So if you get it right, it should mean that the bolster doesn't fall over, it feels relatively stable here. And again, if you haven't got bolster, you can just do this with a couple of cushions, rolled up towel, yeah. So just make sure it feels nice and sort of steady here, yeah. And then maybe just give the bolster a little bit of a pat down, because sometimes when you backspin on it, you have a bit of a dip in it, so you can kind of just pat it down a little bit. And we're going to come into this little side body stretch, almost hugging the bolster a little bit, letting the side of the body just relax down. So you're going to let the hands, the forearms rest either side of the bolster, like you're sort of hugging it with the side of the body. The left hip or right hip, doesn't really matter which one, but we're going to do both. I'll start with the left hip and left hand side of the body. You're just going to tuck inwards. The hands can rest down, and then we could either let our left ear rest down, left hand side of the face, or we could turn and rest our forehead down. So again, it does take a bit of setting up. Feel free to add in any other props that you need. Cushion for the head sometimes can be nice, a little extra sort of support. And you should find that bolster is really nice and steady on it, yeah. You can do this without the blocks as well, if you want to just take it into a little side stretch here. And again, feel free just to kind of work with the legs here. We don't have to stay stacked through the hips and the knees, but you are in quite a tucked in position perhaps with the legs. This is a little bit more of a restorative pose rather than a yin pose with a deep stretch. So you may not necessarily feel any sensation of resistance. You are allowing the body to feel supported here. Supported through the neck, through the shoulders, through the head. I'm going to take 5 more breaths here. Starting now, just to press the hands into the earth. Let's come and just guide our upper body into an upright position, and we'll just leave our sort of props as they are. You're going to hug the knees just into the chest, giving yourself a little hug here. And we're going to take a few roll down. So hug yourself, knees into chest, roll down through the ankles, and then just wave the hands back to the knees. And just take a few little roll downs here. You could walk the feet a bit further away from each other. You could go a bit wider, just to allow the whole body to drape down. Maybe taking hold of the toes, taking hold of the base of the feet. Just finding your breath as you do this. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, and we're going to keep this set up to come into a forward fold. So you're going to position yourself so that the feet are either side of your props. Now, the legs don't need to be super wide, but we're going to come into a V shape here. So you've got your bolster in front of you. The legs can go out off the corners of the mat. And again, our blocks can stay where they are. You may need a little bit of extra support here. So again, a cushion is quite nice around belly and chest because we're going to fold forwards and you're going to really let that upper body drape. So if you've got a few cushions or a blanket or something, you can really just allow the body to fold forwards. The bolster's still on a bit of an incline here. And again, if you haven't got these props and this setup doesn't look the same, then just work with what feels good. Work with any props that you can have just to build you up. You're still going to get the same sensation, same stretch into the back of the legs here. So then we could come and just rest the hands onto the bolster. We could let our forehead just rest down. If you can get there, you could just allow the forehead to rest onto a cushion and then hands could come down. But see if you can find some support for the upper body. So again, it feels a little bit more restorative, a little bit more restful. You will find sensation through the back of the legs. That is the aim here. We're aiming to find a stretch and open up through the hips. This allows the hip joint to open up when we're in this position with the hips. You do want to rest through the upper body if you can, just using your props for a bit of support. And then once you're here, just take a little check-in. So perhaps circle the ankles or just move through the feet slightly. You could just really gently let the knees pad, so pressing one knee down at a time. And take any other adjustments that feel good. Feet could be a little bit wider, feet could come a little closer together. Just take any other adjustments and then allow yourself to settle. Winter is a season for settling and for hibernation, so reminding yourself of that here. Seeds begin to settle, leaves begin to fall. In nature, it's a real time for rejuvenation, for rest. Really just allowing yourself to perhaps rest in this interim phase, or perhaps you've got a little bit of hustle and bustle planning ahead, but also quite a time for reflection as we come towards the end of another year. And without having to think too much about forwards or backwards, perhaps just allowing yourself just to sit in the here and the now, in the present. Start to think about moving here, taking a few more gentle breaths. And we're going to come out of this just in two parts. So the first part is going to be the upper body. You're going to let the hands just rest onto the floor, onto the mat. And we're going to press that upper body just away from our props. You could let the hands rest onto the knees or the thighs and just take a moment of stillness and kind of silence here. We're then going to begin to circle the ankles, just inviting in some really subtle movement through the legs. Then letting the hands just press behind. Just give the knees, again, a gentle press down, almost like a little shake, but without moving too hard. Just bend and straighten one knee at a time. And then we're going to walk the heels in. So start to guide the heels in, like they're coming in towards your props in a little bit more of a long waist position with the legs. Just give them a little heel toe here. And then just begin to shuffle away. So you could bend the knees to do this, just guiding the knees again into the chest. Nice. And we're going to come and sit towards the end of the mat. Again, leaving the props where they are. Sit in any way that feels comfortable. Just make a bit of space, whatever you need, just to come into sitting. And we're going to let the hands just rest onto the knees, the thighs, lifting up through the head and neck, letting the shoulders just settle here. And just take a few moments in stillness. Again, let your shoulders just press down and away. And just notice any sensations perhaps that arise here, any sensations after that deep stretch into the hips, the back of the legs. And then keeping our props where they are, we're going to come back into that little side bending on the other side. So if you did the left hip, left side before, we'll come and do the right. You're going to tuck the right hip just into the side of your bolster. We're going to stack roughly through the hips, the knees, the ankles, toes. And again, we're going to use the forearms just to rest down. So this time, again, you could allow your forehead to come down, rest onto a cushion. You could allow your right ear, right hand side of your face to rest down. We're just allowing those forearms, or hands at least, just to rest by the side of the body. Yeah, and again, you could just pad out your bolster if you've got like a buckwheat one. You might just want to give it a little bit of a pad out. If you've got a bit of indent where your head's been or where any part of your body's been before. And once we're here, we can just come and check in with the legs, so we don't have to keep them really stacked here. But again, it's quite a contained position with the legs, so not fully stretching with the legs. You do want a little bend on the knees. What can be nice here, which I didn't say last time, is a cushion between the knees. That can be a really nice supportive way of doing this little side bend. Yeah, if you've got a cushion to spare. And again, this can take a little bit to kind of find what feels comfortable. So take the time that you need. Try and let the chest have some contact with the bolster and with the props here if you can. Maybe beginning just to close the eyes or soften the gaze. If you can feel the palms just resting on your mat, you could spread the fingertips wide and really just allow the hands to almost press in towards the mat. The belly can really soften here. Having a few deeper breaths here, just guiding the breath down into the hips, into the lower back. Pressing your hands into the earth. Let's come and lift that head and neck. So take the weight through your hands and just slowly peel yourself up and away. Nice. So we're going to come into two more poses, lion, and you're going to need your blocks for this. So just really gently guide the bolster away. Be a little heavy, so no need to sort of lift it. If you can just kind of push it and roll it, that's always nice. And we're going to use two blocks again. You're going to bring your blocks to the end of the mat, and you're going to come and rest your feet onto the blocks. The knees are going to be up to the sky. You're going to have a little gap between the knees and the feet. So the feet are just elevated on the block, and then you're going to bring yourself down. So it may be nice here to have a cushion for your head. And if you want anything for relaxation, if you've got a blanket or eye bag or anything, you could just have it ready, because we're going to do two more poses and then we'll go into relaxation from here. So feel free to gather in what you need, and then just come and let the feet rest onto the blocks, the knees pointing up to the sky, and just start by giving the belly a little bit of a rub here. Just come and connect back in towards those three lower chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus. And we could rub into the hips, just rubbing into the hip joint, maybe at the side of the body. And then simply allow the arms to reach out to the sides completely, just stretching them out like the wings of a bird. And before we come into, we're going to come into supine pigeon here, but before we do, if you're finding that your feet are almost sliding off the blocks, then you might need to just bend the knees more. So you really want to feel nice and supported here. So sometimes if your feet are too far away, you kind of feel like the legs are going to slide a bit. So have the knees in a nice bent position with the feet resting on the blocks. We're then going to take left heel onto right thigh. Your right foot is going to stay on the block. Stack the head right on the shoulders. So without looking to the left or looking to the right, and just let your head and neck relax here. The palms could rest facing up to the sky. And we're going to let that left hip and knee rock outwards to find a stretch into the back of the left hip. Again, a couple of things to think about. If this feels easy, you could start to guide your left heel, left ankle, slightly further down the right thigh. That's going to bring you into a deeper stretch into the left hip. So it almost starts to mirror that lotus pose that we did at the beginning, where you've kind of got one foot sort of tucked into the knee. And you begin just to find the sense of stillness again. Slowly releasing your left leg just back onto the block. Just come back into that little starting position. So left foot is on the block, right foot is on the block. We're going to lift both feet away from the blocks and just hug the knees into the chest. So come and take a little knee hug here. Just rocking knees from side to side, a little massage into the lower back. You could just circle the ankles as well here. Then we're going to come into that pigeon pose on the other side. So this time your left foot is going to rest onto the block. Again, just checking with where the foot is. If the blocks move slightly, then you can just use your foot to bring the block in a bit more. The left knee is going to be bent now. Left knee up to sky. And we're right heel It's going to rest onto left thigh, left knee. And again, for a slightly deeper stretch, you could just guide your right foot down the left thigh to open up a bit more into the back of the right hip. Again, no force, whatever feels good. Arms are going to rest out to the side of the body. And if the bolster and if the block doesn't work for you, of course, feel free just to pop your foot down. Just an option. We need to check in with the mind here. Simply just noticing perhaps how it feels right now in this moment. I'm going to guide your left foot back onto the block. Come and meet me with both feet on the block, both knees up to the sky. We're going to hug the knees into the chest again. Take both knees with your hands. You could interlace the fingers around the top of the knees, the back of the knees. And again, maybe just a little rock seed pose here on our back, perhaps a circle just around with the ankles. Then just using your feet, gently push the block just to the end of the mat. You don't have to necessarily sit all the way up to do this. You can just push the feet, gliding the heels to the end of the mat, just giving yourself a bit of a stretch here through the hips. You could rock the big toes just in and out, just to release off through the hips a little here. Then you could reach the arms above the head, maybe taking a little bit of a stretch, one final stretch here before we come into relaxation. So beginning just to make a nice comfortable resting nest for the body. Taking any props that you need. And feeling free to do this on your back, on your tummy, on your side. Feeling free to just turn out any lights. If you've got a blanket, perhaps just taking some care and attention just to really wrap the blanket around the body. So almost just tucking the hips in, tucking it underneath the knees, tucking it around the toes. So you're almost like a little mummy here, just wrapped up. Maybe just checking in with where the arms would like to be, perhaps just tucked in with the blanket. You could come and rest them outside of the blanket, on your belly, on your hips, by the side of the body. So really just taking this time to come and rest. Beginning to close the eyes, soften the gaze, just allow some darkness to flood in behind the eyes. And allowing your shoulders just to soften here. And the elbows, wrists and the hands just to become a little heavier. You may wish just to imagine in your hands that you're holding a ball of energy, a ball of light. Sometimes it's nice to imagine this like a moon shape, like a full moon. Perhaps a bright white light. And the moon, just like seasons, just like our body, has cycles. As we start to come towards the end of a full year, full cycle, perhaps just taking a moment of appreciation for everything that you have had experienced this year. And that doesn't have to be good or bad. We don't need to put a label on it in any way. Just a simple appreciation of those experiences. And beginning to really let the chest settle, and let the belly settle, and let the hips soften. Allowing the knees, the back of the legs to really melt in towards the earth. Allowing the heels to hang heavy and the toes to become soft. And you can simply allow your breath to come and go here. Holding in your palms just this white light and ball of energy. And we're going to start to imagine this energy now, just really gently floating up from the palms into the wrists, coming up into the elbows, and coming up into the upper arms and the shoulder joints. And imagine this white light now just floating into the center of the body, the heart, the rib cage, and sinking down into that belly area, starting to slowly flood all the way down the right lower leg, and then all the way down the left lower leg. Starting to imagine this whole body being flooded and filled with this light. Allowing it now just to come up through the throat, the jaw, nose, mouth, and finally into the crown of the head. Perhaps this is a healing light, perhaps soothing those aches, pains, soreness. Or perhaps it's just simply a light of energy. And so just a few little reminders as we begin to leave December behind. Allowing yourself just to let go of this old chapter and perhaps move into a new one. Reminding yourself here of all of the ways that you have grown, learnt, and reminding yourself here that you're allowed to embrace slowness, stillness, and quietness. So Beginning just to really gently move through the fingertips, maybe move through the toes. You could begin to really gently just circle the ankles around. And we'll slowly come and just bend the knees. Maybe take a little rock with the knees just from side to side. Again, no big movements here, just nice and gently easing yourself out of this stillness. And we'll come and take a few moments on the side of our bodies here. So just rolling on to left or right. Again, just tucking maybe the knees into the chest, into this little cocoon position here. Just pressing the hands into the earth. Let's gently guide ourselves into this upright position. Just to come back into the space, into the light. And we're going to finish just with one clearing breath here. So let's let the hands rest onto the knees or the thighs. And you're going to take a full inhale through the nose and a really long exhale out through the mouth, like you're just clearing the air and clearing the breath. So in your own time. Let's draw the palms together, just resting in this stillness. And then slowly just bringing the arms into the air. Take one final stretch here, just through the shoulders. And opening the arms wide. Come and gather in everything that you need just to see you through these next few weeks towards the end of the year. Let's close it in towards our chest. Come and honour yourself deeply. Thank you so much for joining me. Well done, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Hopefully you'll sleep well tonight and things feel a little warmer, not colder, hopefully newer, not older. And I will see you next week for a final class of the year. So all hats, jumpers, whatever, welcome, mince pie, mulled wine, whatever you want to bring. And I'll see you next week. Have a great sleep and lovely week and weekend. Loads of love.